Hello, Professor. We have decided to do our presentation on Walt Disney and how he overcame challenges using his leadership abilities. Just to go over the presentation today, we're going to give you a brief overview of Walt Disney and how he became an entrepreneur. We are then going to analyze leadership through two lenses learned throughout the course: the transformational leadership theory and the path goal theory. We will then discuss the major challenge that he faced and how he overcame it, and then we will wrap up the presentation with a quick summary. So just to give a brief overview of Walt Disney, he is an American entrepreneur, animator, voice actor, and film director. He was born on December 5th in 1901 and began working as a commercial illustrator in 1919 at the age of only 18 years old. He founded Disney Brothers Studio in 1923 with his brother Roy. The company from there took off with the animated film Mickey Mouse in 1928, but he had yet to discover that he would face many challenges after that. So we're going to be discussing two leadership theories today throughout our presentation. The first one is the transformational leadership lens. So transformational leadership is defined as the process whereby a person engages with others and creates a connection that raises the level of motivation and morality in both the leader and the follower. Some of the key points that we're going to be touching on in our presentation are the 4 I's of leadership outlined in the full range of leadership model. The two that we're going to be focusing on are the inspirational motivation and the intellectual stimulation. So that is 2 out of the 4 I's. We are then going to be talking about his creative development of self through positive self-regard, which was also discussed in this chapter of the textbook. We are then going to talk about how he emphasized his strengths opposed to dwelling on his weaknesses, which we will later find out is one of the ways in which he overcame his challenge. Also, we'll talk about how he empowers his followers and nurtures them in change. Many are attracted to the transformational leadership because it aligns with their definition of leadership. So next, we will talk about some of the strengths and criticisms using this lens, just to keep in mind when we are evaluating Walt Disney. So one of the first strengths is that transformational leadership is widely researched. So there's a lot of authors who have discussed this and tested these theories. Also, as mentioned before, this definition of leadership is consistent with what society's popular notion of leadership is. It also treats leadership as a process between the leader and the follower and provides a broader view of leadership and how followers and leaders interact together. However, there are some criticisms as that it lacks conceptual clarity, and it also has difficulties measuring transformational leadership as it's not abstract, and it treats leadership as a personality trait rather than a behavior that can be learned, which is a criticism of transformational leadership. The next lens that we are going to look through is the path goal leadership lens. So this touches on the path goal theory that emphasizes the relationship between the leader's style and the characteristics of the followers in the organizational setting. According to the textbook, path goal theory predicts that achievement-oriented leadership is most effective in settings in which followers are required to perform ambiguous tasks. This is due to the fact that achievement-oriented leaders often raise confidence in their followers as they challenge and set high standards for them, allowing followers to reach their goals. We are going to be using this lens to evaluate how Walt Disney interacts with his followers and helps them confront obstacles as they arise. Just to look at some of the strengths and criticisms of the path goal leadership lens, we can see that one of the main strengths is that it provides a framework to allow leaders to better understand how to interact with their followers in order to achieve certain goals. Another advantage of this theory is that it informs leaders on how to choose an appropriate style based on specific followers and tasks. Finally, this theory allows leaders to have a practical model that indicates the important ways in which to help followers. The textbook refers to this theory as a reminder to leaders that the overarching purpose of leadership is to guide and coach followers as they motivate along the path to achieving a goal. However, with this in mind, it is important to understand some of the criticisms associated with this lens in order to properly analyze specific leaders. Since path goal theory has so many elements to it, it can often be complex and hard to understand. Going along the same lines, this theory can be broad, and therefore cannot be used as a cookie-cutter approach to solving all types of leadership issues. The final note to keep in mind when applying this theory is that it suggests a dependence from the follower onto the leaders, as leaders under this lens mentor, coach, and guide, often without allowing the follower to take charge. So, keeping these two lenses in mind, we're going to discuss the major challenge that Walt Disney faced throughout his career. So, despite the popularity of the screenings in 1923, the studio had become over-encumbered with debt, forcing Disney to declare bankruptcy. Shortly after, Walt discovered his cartoon distributor, Margaret Winkler, had stolen the rights to his popular character Oswald, along with his entire animation staff. Immediately, the Disney brothers produced 3 cartoons featuring the developing character Mickey Mouse, which was an instant sensation. In 1941, Disney animators participated in a strike, resulting in the resignation of many long-term employees. The company would not financially recover from this until 1950 with the release of the animated feature Cinderella. This constant struggle with staying afloat was a major issue for the company spanning over 15 years. In order to turn this company around and create a successful organization, a strong leader must address the issues and motivate their followers to believe in the vision and present resilience. The leader must influence their followers to be part of the vision and create change from their current strategies. So basically, the major challenge was turning a sustainable profit for the company to keep them afloat, as they kept encountering many financial issues and property right issues. So looking at transformational leadership, we can see how Walt Disney used this theory to overcome some of his failures. So he used creative deployment of self through positive self-regard. He also used intellectual stimulation as it challenges followers to be innovative and creative. As a result, the Walt Disney Studio team was able to create characters that would transform their organization despite the constant failures. The fact that Walt Disney was able to lead his team to persevere through these tough times demonstrates his affluent abilities to lead his team to achieve the vision that they had established, to be one of the world's leading producers and providers of entertainment and information. Next, we will move on to the path-goal theory. As you can see at the top of the slide, there is a quote from Walt Disney that states, "You can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality." This shows how he had high expectations of his colleagues, but also challenged them to perform work at the highest level possible. Walt emphasized that everyone has the potential to contribute heavily to the organization, which installed a confidence in his employees to overcome challenging tasks. This all relates back into the quote that is still emphasized in their company today and was taken from their website, and that quotation lives on. So, the result of his leadership was that he actually was able to overcome this challenge and create a sustainable company. He won 59 Academy Awards and was inducted into many Hall of Fames, as you can see on the slide here. Walt Disney left behind a $165 billion company, which is a huge success despite the challenges that he faced early on. In summary, Walt Disney was a young entrepreneur with a dream. He turned his challenges into an opportunity to grow and develop. His leadership was looked at through the transformational leadership approach and the path-goal theory, which ultimately led him to motivating his followers and creating an influential organization. He holds one of the most successful companies in America, and his vision lives on today with Walt Disney Studios. The end quote that we will leave this presentation off with is that it is good to have a failure while you're young because it teaches you so much. And once you've lived through the worst, you're never quite as vulnerable afterward. And this was quoted by Walt Disney. We thank you for watching our presentation, and if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. Thank you.